What's going on, guys? It's Greg here, aka NYPrepper. It is Monday, December 29th, 2025, and I have some breaking news to share with you guys. Right now, it is 16:18 Eastern Time here in the United States, and we have some major breaking news coming in from Asia. So, Taiwan has placed their armed forces on high alert as China encircles the island and launches massive live fire drills. And what you're looking at here is a map showing all the areas where China is doing these live fire drills. So all these shaded boxes, look at this. This is just totally insane. So basically the entire island has been encircled. These are the largest exercises that China has done around Taiwan. Absolutely insane. China launched its most extensive war games around Taiwan on Monday to showcase Beijing's ability to cut off the island from outside support in a conflict, testing Taiwan's resolve to defend itself and its arsenal of U.S.-made weapons. The Eastern Theater Command said it had deployed troops, warships, fighter jets, and artillery for its Justice Mission 2025 exercises to encircle the democratically governed island, conduct live fire and simulated strikes on land and sea targets, and drills to blockade Taiwan's main ports. Wow. The live fire exercises will continue on Tuesday across a record 7 zones designated by China's Maritime Safety Administration, making the drills the largest to date by total coverage and in areas closer to Taiwan than previous exercises. The military had initially said artillery firing would be confined to 5 zones. And apparently these drills forced flights to be canceled in Taiwan. Taiwan's defense ministry said there was also an extra zone for a 2-hour drill on Monday morning, which took place without a Chinese announcement in the eastern waters of the island. The transport ministry said more than 100,000 passengers on scheduled international flights will be affected by Tuesday's drills, while around 80 domestic flights are set to be canceled. China's 6th major round of war games since 2022, after then U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited the democratically governed island, follows stronger rhetoric promoting Beijing's territorial claims in response to Japanese Prime Minister Takashi suggesting a hypothetical Chinese attack on Taiwan could trigger a military response from Tokyo. Taiwan rejects China's claimed sovereignty, maintaining that only its people can decide the island's future. Our armed forces operate on the principle of preparing for the worst and must take every possible scenario into account, He Jisheng, Deputy Chief of the General Staff for Intelligence at Taiwan's Defense Ministry, told reporters when asked about Tuesday's drills. Conducting live fire exercises around the Taiwan Strait would not only constitute military pressure on us, but could also pose more complex challenges and impacts for the international community and neighboring countries. Wow, so this is huge news, guys. Record large military exercises going on around Taiwan, and here we actually have some video footage of these exercises posted by China. You can see all these missile trucks and infantry forces. Looks like fighter jets here. Bunch of fighter jets. An AWACS plane. Looks like they're practicing refueling here. There's some warships firing some machine guns. Looks like a chain gun of some kind, and short-range artillery from the warship there. So this is a full-scale exercise, land, sea, and air. Looks like some kind of bomber. I think that's one of China's main bombers there, strategic bombers. Looks like they're launching some surface-to-air missiles here. Not sure if these are air defenses or offensive missile launchers. They look similar to the Russian Iskanders, probably a couple 100-mile range. Then here's some attack helicopters of theirs. So this is very, very serious, guys. Now, in addition to these exercises, we also know that China just recently deployed 100 more ICBMs in one of their newest silo fields near Mongolia. And here we have some video footage of China moving around their Dongfang ICBMs, and you can see they have them tarped with this yellow tarp that says Zhu-million. But that's clearly a road mobile ICBM. You could tell by the number of axles, and you can see in the front, you can clearly see there's a missile underneath this thing, okay? So China is not messing around. Looks like they're getting ready for war with Taiwan and possibly nuclear war with the United States. And I want to remind you guys that multiple intelligence services in the West have said that China will have the same number of deployed nuclear warheads as the U.S. by 2030 if the U.S. does not up-arm its nuclear arsenal. So that's very concerning. That means China and Russia together would have double the number of nuclear warheads as the U.S. And we have some very serious news coming out of Russia. So apparently Russia threatened Ukraine after an alleged attack on Putin's residence. Russia on Monday promised to retaliate against Ukraine after it said nearly 100 drones targeted one of Putin's residences, likely throwing a wrench into Trump's efforts to end the nearly 4-year war. Such reckless actions will not go unanswered. The targets for retaliatory strikes and the timing of their implementation by the Russian armed forces have been determined, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said, without offering details of the alleged attacks in the region of Novgorod. Okay, so Russia saying 100 drones targeted one of Putin's residences, and Sergei Lavrov saying that the targets for retaliatory strikes have already been decided. Soon after, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky called the claims a lie aimed at jeopardizing negotiations. Russia would most likely use the alleged attacks to launch strikes at government buildings in Kyiv, the capital, he added. Trump later told reporters that he just heard about the attack alleged by Russia. That would be too bad. That would not be good, he said ahead of his meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. And one of Russia's largest oil refineries was attacked by Ukraine last week, and now this refinery has completely suspended operations due to equipment damage caused by the attack on Christmas Day. So this is the Novoshatkynsk oil refinery, one of their largest refineries. And 59 balloons flew into Poland from Belarus on Christmas Eve, some packed with smuggled cigarettes, others equipped with GPS trackers, according to Polish media outlet RMF24. One balloon struck a power line in the Lublin region in eastern Poland, leaving residents without electricity. Authorities are investigating whether this was just a smuggling run or a deliberate attempt to probe Poland's air defense system. So 59 balloons on Christmas Eve flew into Polish airspace from Belarus. And this update was sponsored by EMP Shield. Guys, EMP Shield has created a special discount just for you, the listeners of the NYPrepper channel. If you go to empshield.com and use the promo code NYPrepper, you can get 15% off your entire order. And why do you need an EMP Shield? Well, this is a special device to protect your vehicle, your RV, your solar generators, your radios from an electromagnetic pulse, which could be caused by a solar flare or potentially a rogue country like North Korea detonating an electromagnetic pulse weapon over the United States that's mounted onto a satellite. So protect your vehicles, protect your RV, protect your radios, protect your generators with an EMP Shield. Use my promo code NYPrepper to get 15% off. Installation is super simple. This is a veteran-owned business, 100% American-made, and the EMP Shields have been tested by the military, okay? And free shipping is included to the entire continental United States. And the link and the promo code are in the description below this video. And President Trump stated today, while greeting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at his Mar-a-Lago estate, that the U.S. had targeted a dock facility in Venezuela used for loading drugs onto boats. He described a major explosion in the area, saying, quote, "There was a major explosion in the dock area where they load the boats up with drugs. They load the boats up with drugs, so we hit all the boats, and now we hit the area. It's the implementation area. That's where they implement, and that is no longer around." So very, very interesting. And Trump stated today that he would back military action against Iran if Iran continues advancing its missile program, adding that any further steps in Iran's nuclear program should trigger an immediate strike. And we know that one of the main reasons why Netanyahu is visiting Mar-a-Lago today is to convince Trump to strike Iran's missile program, which Israel is very concerned about. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, you know, Trump didn't strike any of the missile facilities. He only struck some of the nuclear facilities. But Iran has continued their nuclear enrichment, and obviously their ballistic missiles haven't been affected. And I want to just play some clips for you of the meeting today with Netanyahu. Trump said, "I hope Netanyahu is going to get along with Syria because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job." He also said that Netanyahu can be very difficult. And Netanyahu said, "We've never had a friend like we have now in the White House." So let me play some clips for you here.
Syria? Well, I hope he's going to get along with Syria because the new president of Syria is working very hard to do a good job. He really is. I know he's a tough cookie, and he's, you know, you're not going to get a choir boy to lead Syria. That's the one thing I will say. So I hope they're going to get along because, you know, I dropped the sanctions on Syria because otherwise they wouldn't have had a chance. We want to see Syria survive. Syria?
So a lot of Israelis and Jewish Americans don't like the fact that Trump is so soft on the Syrian president. So we'll have to wait and see what happens here.
Bibi's a strong man. He can be very difficult on occasion, but you need a strong man. If you had a weak man, you wouldn't have Israel right now. Israel would have been, you know, Israel with most other leaders would not exist today. They would not exist. And now they're stronger than ever. Yeah.
And then here's another clip of him with Netanyahu, and Netanyahu talking about his friendship with Trump.
I'll say it again and again and again. We've never had a friend like President Trump in the White House. It's not even close. And I think you can judge that by the, not merely by the frequency of our meetings, but by the content and the intensity. I think Israel is very blessed to have President Trump leading the United States, and I'll say leading the free world at this time. I think it's not merely Israel's great fortune, I think it's the world's great fortune. I'll say it again.
And we also have a over-the-horizon radar active right now in Europe, which could suggest that Russia's preparing to launch strikes tonight or in the next 24 hours on Ukraine. And over-the-horizon radar is a long-range radar used for detecting the launch of missiles. But that's the latest breaking news that I have. I might be back later on tonight with a live update and some live coverage. And I hope you guys had a great Christmas. And I wish all of you guys a happy new year. And I'll see you soon. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere. And before I continue with the breaking news, I wanted to mention the sponsor for this update, which is NYPrepper Supply. Guys, NYPrepper Supply is doing a massive sale on their 3-month emergency food supply. And to get the deal, you got to use my link. It's in the description below this video. It's preparewithNYPrepper.com. So they're selling their 3-month emergency food kit at 30% off. Plus, they're going to throw in an additional month of food. So that's 4 months of food. And the normal price would be $944. And they're selling it at just under $700 for 4 months of food. And this food has a 25-year shelf life. And it's all packed into rugged, watertight buckets that don't take up a lot of space in your home. And the food is obviously nutritious, which is very important for surviving any kind of SHTF situation. You can also use this food for camping and traveling. But use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get a free month of emergency food with your 3-month emergency food kit from NYPrepper Supply, all at 30% off, just $700 for 4 months of food. So use the link preparewithNYPrepper.com to get the deal, and the link is in the description below this video.